Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I have something that's a rather practical project for you, and that is boxes. Boxes. They could be gift boxes, but in this case they are card boxes. So I could bundle these cards and give them to friends and family, or I could perhaps market them for charity or for my own personal profit, or in this case just to store my cards and keep them in good condition. I think you're going to find that making your own boxes, gift boxes, card boxes, any kind of box, is not a very difficult process. Along the way, I'll show you some tips and tricks to make it even easier. And if you would like to learn how to do these yourself, then stick with me and I'll show you how. You don't need to scour the high street or the internet for the right box, which in the end might not really fit your needs. You may have odd size cards. You might not have a standard size card that you like to make. You don't need to worry about that. You can make your own box, and you use the same calculation for any box, and that means any box, not just card boxes, but gift boxes as well. For example, if you wanted to give this little box here as a gift inside of another box, you would just need to take the measurements for the width, for the length, and for the height of the box, or the depth of it, and you could easily make your own custom box. That's what I'm going to do with these cards today, and I've decided on these three sizes. One for this mini slimline. I've only got a few of these at the moment, but this is something that I'm hoping to make more of in future, so I thought I'd go ahead and start a box up for those. I've also got a 5x5. I like to make square cards. 6x6 is very nice, but it does require that you have to use your 12x12 cardstock, whereas with the 5x5, I can use a normal A4 sheet of card. And finally, my most popular size, and that is the 5x7. I make more of the 5x7 than any other size. I have this worksheet, which is all you would need to determine the size that you need to cut your cardstock. And I'll explain a really simple method for calculating the differences that you're going to need between the base and the lid of your box, because the lid of your box must be bigger than the base. Otherwise, it's not going to go over top of the base. It's just going to sit on top. You need it to actually come over the base and down on to the base as well. So all you need to do is plug in your numbers here. So let's take our 5x7 card first. Now, I also want to have envelopes in my box as well. So I need to know what size of envelope, 5x7 envelopes here. But again, I'm going to show you later how to make your own envelopes if you don't have these, and if you don't have any fancy tools, or you don't have things like a punch board, a We Are Memory Keepers punch board, or an envelope template that maybe came with your scoreboard, or you don't have any of the plastic templates that are on the market. You can easily make these yourself. So my envelope is going to be the largest of the items in my box. So, as I say here, you need to base it on your largest measurement. And if I place this here, I see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a quarter by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a quarter. I have to make it bigger than that as well, so that I can still get the cards and the envelopes into the box and then back out of the box as well. So we're just going to increase the size by 1/4 of an inch. So now I know that my largest piece is 5.5, because that was that 5.25 plus that 1/4 of an inch wiggle room. So 5.5. My card is 5 inches wide. My envelope is 5.25. So my box must be 5.5 in order for the card and the envelope to fit inside. For the length, my card is 7 inches. My envelope is 7.25. So I need my box length to be at least 7.5 inches. Now, for the depth, that is subject to your desires. So I'm going to make mine, I've decided I'm going to make mine 1.5 inches deep. So I know that will hold a considerable number of cards, and that's the number that I've settled on. Now that, of course, is the sides of the box. So you have 2 sides, and you've got another 2 sides. So you need to add the same on each side of this width and length. And then all you do is add them up. So for your first piece of cardstock, you're going to need a piece that is 5.5 plus 3 more. So that's 8.5 inches. And you're going to need the other measurement to be 7.5 plus the additional 3 to accommodate the depth. So 7.5 by 10.5. Now, as I said before, the base and the lid have to be different finished sizes. So the easiest way to do this that I found is just to reduce the base size rather than trying to mess around with, 15/16 of an inch and all that, magic. You can actually do this by simply taking off 1/16, or you can even go up to 1/8 of an inch, depending on what you're going to be putting inside your box. If you've got a lot of, say, tissue paper or shredded paper, something like that, you might want your lid to have a little more give to it, but you wouldn't want to go any more than 1/8 of an inch. And what that means in technical terms in crafting, a slither or a tad. So this is all you need to take off of 2 sides of your cardstock. You can do this after you've cut your card, or you can do it while you're putting it in your trimmer or your guillotine, and just using the measurements on your particular trimmer to move it that 1/16 of an inch less than your original calculation. Lid, you don't need to make any adjustments. You're going to just use the calculation that you come up with. So again, we know the width and the length, 5.5 and 7.5. But the depth is going to be different, because I don't want a lid that is 1.5 inches deep, because it's just going to come right down to the very bottom, and that is something that I'm just not going to want for this. Now, there may be occasions when you do want something like that, and of course, don't let that hold you back. But in this case, I want my lid, the lip that comes over, or the piece that hangs over the side of the box, to be 1 inch. So this is going to make things very easy. So 5.5 plus 2 is 7.5, and 7.5 plus 2 is 9.5. So now I have the calculations to cut both pieces of my cardstock for my 5x7 storage box. 8.5 by 10.5 minus that 1/16 of an inch, that technical slither on 2 sides, and then for my lid, 7.5 by 9.5. I've already cut my cardstock, so I'm going to bring that in now, is to make these score marks. And these are quite simple to do. You're simply going to score whatever you determine for your depth on all 4 sides of your card. So 1.5 inches is the first. And the easiest way to do this, rather than to try to remember what 1.5 is from that edge, is just to turn your card and just do 1.5 again, a third time, and then your final score. And that's it. So you essentially have this rectangle with these 4 corners, squares. Then for your lid, we want this to be 1 inch. So that is 1 inch for the depth of the lid. And we do it exactly like we did for the base. And then the next thing we need to do is just to fold and burnish, and then there's just a little bit of cutting to do as well. I want to be sure that these score lines are nice and crisp. So go back and forth with my bone folder. Now I'm ready to cut, and I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can make your tabs. What you need to do is to come up this score line here and form your first tab, like so. So that frees that up to then swing in like that. And to avoid any chance that your card might stick up or protrude beyond there, what you can do is just make a little wedge off the outer edge, and then you're not going to see that sticking up because you've got that tiny little bit of clearance there now. Then you want to go over to the other side, the opposite corner, and do the same. And then you can take that little wedge out as well. Now that's one way of making your tabs, so that you make your cuts like so. Cut my lid and show you another way that you can do these tabs, and that is, rather than having them, I cut here and here, or I cut here and here, I alternate them. So if I cut this one like that, then I'll turn it and I'll cut this tab like that. So this comes up and goes to the side, and this comes up and goes to the shorter side. So one to the longer side and one to the shorter side. And again, make your little wedges. And that's all you need to do. Turn this one this way. So I'll go ahead and do that, get the glue on, and then we'll continue. Well, this one sits and dries. So if you get like this, where you've got that score line still in there, you can just take a tiny little bit off of it. It's another one of those technical terms, only that's a hair rather than a slither. And that will keep it from protruding there. Well, I'll set those aside to dry, and I'm just going to check that. Oh yes, my cards are going to fit in there nicely. I've got plenty of room, so if I've got any of those sort of oversized 5x7s that perhaps have maybe bits that come off the sides, or I've cut it just a little bit larger than a 5x7, it's going to easily accommodate it. Plus there's room in there to add some tissue paper or some paper shred. I'm going to let those dry for a moment. Now for my 5x5, I am going to have a box that is 1 inch deep, and then the lip on it is going to be 3/4 of an inch. Right? And that means I can go ahead and place all my numbers in here. And for my 5x5 card, my card I know is 5x5, my envelope is 5 1/4, so that means it has to be 5x5 in width and 5x5 in length. So for the base, we need one piece that is cut at 5 1/2 plus 2, 7 1/2 by 5 1/2 plus 2, which is 7 1/2. So 7 1/2 by 7 1/2. For the lid, again, put the numbers in, and it is now going to be 5 1/2 plus 1 1/2. A box that is, or the lid, that is 7x7. And I have those pieces cut already. Bring those in now. My 7x7 for the lid, and my 7 1/2 by 7 1/2 minus my 1/16 on those two sides. Take the scoreboard, and we'll start with the base. And I decided that I wanted the base to be 1 inch deep, so 1 inch is where I'm going to make my score line on all 4 sides. the 5 by 5. And if I bring my card in, and of course I'll have my envelope when we get that made as well. So that is 2 down and 1 to go. Now, a suggestion, if you are going to be making a lot of boxes and you want something like this on hand, you could make your own and then just put it through your laminator, and then you could just use your dry markers on it, and you don't have to resort to a pencil and a rubber each time. So this is going to be for the mini slimline. So we're going to get our measurements, and this is 6 1/4 by 3 1/4. So our envelope is 1/4 inch bigger, and then we need to add another 1/4 inch onto that for our box calculations. So it's 3 1/4 plus 1/4 plus another 1/4. So 3 3/4 by 6 3/4. So again, that's our 6 1/4 plus the extra 1/4 for the envelope and then for the box as well. Now for the depth, I'm going to have this also be 1 inch, but for my lid I'm going to reduce that to 1/2 inch. So again, I've got my numbers in here. The base needs to be 3 3/4 plus 2 more, so 5 3/4 by 6, 7, 8 3/4, and our lid is going to be 3 3/4 plus 1 more, so that's 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 plus 1, so 7 3/4. I've got the cardstock ready for that. And we're going to put it in the scoreboard, and on the base we're going to have that at 1 inch, so 1 inch for the depth, and for the lid it's going to be 1/2 inch. My battery was getting low, so it was an opportunity for me to step away for a little bit and give these boxes time to dry. And now has come the moment of truth. Are the lids actually going to fit properly over the bottom? And let's try these. There is our 5 by 7. Yes, that's nice. And that is with the 1 inch lid. We've got our 5 by 5. And that is with the 3/4. And finally, our mini streamline. And there is the 1/2 inch. They fit perfectly. I am really, really chuffed about that. I'm going to bring in a few more of these cards just to see how many I could get in here. So what I've done is count out some of these envelopes that I had, and I've got 10 cards. And I think that's still, given that 1-inch depth, is still going to close. Yes, that's very good. So I should be able to fit about 10 5x7 cards in here. And again, some of it's going to depend on how much dimension they have, but generally about 10 cards. So I would think anywhere from 8 to 10 with the envelopes. Now, I don't have any 5x5 or slimline envelopes yet, but I would think it would be pretty much the same. So for this, I'm going to start putting a few of these in here and see how many we think we could get in here. Oops, that and that, and maybe even that, and still room for the envelope. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there. And again, it's not a hard and fast rule, and if I wanted to have more of these in one box, I could just make it deeper. And then of course we have our mini slim lines, and as you'll see, it will also accommodate the mini slim line that was the 6x6 size, which came out to 3x6 in actual finished size, that is. And that also fits nicely. Now I could just leave them as they are, and I might do that, but I also might do a bit of decoration on these to give you an idea of what you could do. I'm not going to be filming that part though, but I will post some pictures at the end of this video. And as far as the envelopes go, I am still going to show you those, but I'm just going to make it a second part of this video so that it doesn't go on and on and on. So I'll split this into 2 parts. So this first part are the boxes, and the second part are the envelopes. So again, just to remind you, all you need to do is make a little worksheet such as this and put in your measurements, and you can make your own boxes. Thank you so much for showing up for this video. I hope it was of some use to you. I think it's a very practical project and something that we could all use from time to time. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so today. If you enjoyed it, leave me a thumbs up, and a comment below would also be appreciated. Share with your friends, and as always, please stay safe and crafty hugs. Bye.